Welcome back to the channel Liberty Coin Value. Today we are going to explore the story, TD Valuable Coins where he history, the hidden mysteries, and the mind-blowing valuation of the 1994 P1 Dime USA coin, a coin that in its ordinary sense should have only been worth its face value of just 10 cents, but because of its errors, mistakes, mint mark anomalies, and possibilities tied to its unique production history, has been connected to staggering worth claims reaching as high as $776 million. A number that seems beyond imagination yet continues to capture the attention of collectors, historians, investors, and numismatic enthusiasts from all over the world. So let's start with the context of the 1994 P dime, minted at the Philadelphia Mint, which in that year produced millions of Roosevelt dimes as part of normal circulation. And on the surface there was nothing unusual, as the Roosevelt dime had been in production since 1946 following the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose image graces the obverse, and these coins are typically struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition, weighing 2.27 grams with a diameter of 17.9 millimeters, perfectly ordinary and common, yet every now and then mistakes happen in the minting process that create varieties, errors, or misstruck examples that elevate certain pieces from being just common pocket change to being treasures worth fortunes. And this is exactly where the 1994 P dime gains its legendary aura. Because while most 1994 P dimes are utterly normal, reports of dramatic and highly valuable minting errors, misplaced mint marks, doubled dies, planchet errors, and other anomalies have led to astronomical valuations being whispered across numismatic circles, with the most extreme and almost mythical example pegged with a value claim of $776 million. A number so enormous it surpasses the GDP of some small nations and forces us to question how a dime could ever be seen in such a light. Yet when we unravel the different aspects of rarity and collector psychology, the fascination becomes more understandable. So let's begin breaking it down with the idea of mint errors, because the Philadelphia Mint in 1994 was known to produce a few striking issues, including off-center strikes where the design is not properly aligned with the coin planchet, leading to partial or missing features. And such off-center Roosevelt dimes, if dramatic enough and still showing a visible date and mint mark, can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Then there are broad strikes where the coin is struck without the collar that usually keeps its shape, resulting in a dime that appears stretched or flattened, again pushing values much higher. But even more exciting are the wrong planchet errors where a dime design is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a cent planchet, or even a foreign coin planchet, and these highly unusual combinations have been documented in multiple years. And when discovered they cause a frenzy among collectors, as rarity drives value. So imagine a 1994 P dime struck on a copper cent planchet, its size off, its weight different, its color red rather than silvery. Such a piece could easily command tens of thousands at auction. But the whispers about the supposed $776,001,994 P dime take things into an entirely different dimension, suggesting that there may exist, or may have existed, an extreme example of a mint error that is unique, a one-of-a-kind coin that no other collector can ever possess. And in the world of high-end numismatics, one-of-a-kind status combined with a legendary story can create valuations that defy logic, because wealthy collectors and institutions will sometimes pay astronomical sums to own something no one else can ever have. And so the possibilities of what kind of error could make the 1994 P dime so desirable include doubled die obverse, where the lettering or Roosevelt's portrait appears doubled under magnification, and such varieties in other years like the famous 1969 Lincoln cent doubled die have fetched hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then there are repunched mint marks where the P mint mark was hand-punched more than once, leaving traces of doubling, which though less dramatic still intrigue collectors. And in 1994, the mint was transitioning from older techniques, so anomalies are not out of the question. Then another possibility is that an experimental planchet or test strike escaped the mint, as the U.S. Mint has occasionally experimented with new alloys, and if a 1994 P dime were struck on such a unique material it would be unlike anything else, creating the kind of uniqueness that drives sky-high valuations. And of course we must consider the human element, because stories of coins tied to errors often grow with retelling, transforming from small mistakes to grand legends, and the market responds not just to the physical coin but to the mythos surrounding it. So the legend of the 1994 P dime worth $776 million has become a phenomenon in its own right, capturing imaginations, sparking discussions online, and driving people to check their pockets and jars of change in hopes of striking it rich, because the allure of finding a fortune hidden in plain sight is universal. And when collectors talk about mint mark anomalies, they often highlight misplaced or missing mint marks, for example, a 1994 dime that lacks its P mint mark entirely, which could be reminiscent of the famous 1982 no P dime that became one of the most valuable modern circulation coins, fetching thousands. So if a 1994 P dime with a missing P exists, it could be a true rarity, and when paired with other errors, the values could climb exponentially. So now let's turn to the collector psychology and economics that allow such astronomical values to be discussed. Because coin collecting is not just about intrinsic metal content, but about history, rarity, uniqueness, and desirability, and when only one example of a certain variety exists, it becomes a holy grail item, and wealthy collectors will bid each other up to dizzying heights for the privilege of owning such an artifact, and in auctions, once a narrative is built around a coin, the price can become untethered from any rational measure, with prestige, bragging rights, and legacy all becoming factors. So in theory, if the 1994 P dime with an unparalleled minting error surfaced in the right environment with global attention, the bidding could soar into hundreds of millions, not because the coin is worth that intrinsically but because human desire and competition fuel its price. And in the broader history of numismatics we see echoes of this pattern, such as the 1933 Double Eagle, a $20 gold coin that due to its rarity and legal controversies became one of the most famous and valuable coins in the world, selling for millions despite being technically illegal to own for decades. And so when we place the 1994 P dime within this tradition, we can see how myth, rarity, legal curiosity, and collector desire intersect to create valuations that seem unbelievable. And this brings us to the fascinating what-if scenarios, such as what if a 1994 P dime was struck on a unique planchet of gold or silver intended for special testing? What if a mule error exists where the obverse of a dime was paired with the reverse of another denomination, like a quarter or a cent, a kind of error that has indeed surfaced in other years, and such mules can command astronomical sums. So if such a mule exists for 1994, it could explain the fantastical $776 million claim, and while hard proof remains elusive, the possibility fuels the legend, and then there is the factor of mistaken reporting or exaggerated retelling. Because in the age of the internet, stories of rare coins often snowball into viral phenomena where a modestly valuable error coin suddenly becomes described as worth hundreds of millions, and while no coin has ever sold for $776 million in reality, the fascination with such a claim keeps it alive, and it serves as an engaging gateway for new collectors to enter the hobby, checking their change, learning about minting processes, and discovering the history behind every dime. So even if the legendary valuation is never realized in an actual sale, the 1994 P dime continues to be priceless in another sense, as a symbol of the possibility that incredible treasures can be hiding in the most ordinary places. So in summary, the 1994 P1 dime USA coin, though a humble 10-cent piece in everyday life, carries with it layers of intrigue through possible errors like off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchets, doubled dies, missing or repunched mint marks, mule errors, experimental strikes, and mythologized stories, all of which feed into a narrative that has led some to describe it as worth an unimaginable $776 million. And this story exemplifies the beauty of numismatics where history, mystery, rarity, and human imagination converge to transform small metal discs into artifacts of staggering cultural and financial value. And it invites us to keep looking closely at our change because you never know when an ordinary coin might reveal itself to be an extraordinary fortune in disguise. And as collectors, enthusiasts, and dreamers continue to share the tale of the 1994 P dime, the legend grows, reminding us that sometimes the true worth of a coin lies not only in its rarity or metal but in the dreams it inspires. And that is why the 1994 P dime has earned its place as one of the most talked about modern rarities in American coinage history, carrying with it a story that stretches from the minting presses of Philadelphia to the imaginations of millions of collectors around the globe. And that story is why today we can sit here and discuss how a simple dime could ever be connected to the astonishing claim of. We will be talking about one of the most astonishing discoveries in the history of coin collecting, the 1999 P1 dime coin of the United States that has gained mythical status in the eyes of collectors and investors alike because of the reports and possibilities surrounding its errors, minting mistakes, unusual die varieties, and rare mint mark anomalies which elevate its value far beyond the humble 10 cents stamped on its surface and have even been linked with claims of staggering valuations that reach up to $567 million, a number so surreal and extraordinary that it sparks curiosity, disbelief, and excitement all at once. And in this long exploration we will uncover how such a coin can transcend its face value, what kinds of minting errors could contribute to such an astronomical price tag, what role rarity, condition, provenance, and collector demand play in driving such prices, and why coins like the 1999 P dime become legendary in the coin market where numismatics meets history, speculation, and the magic of chance, because each time we look at coins from our pocket change we may be holding an unnoticed fortune, a tiny metallic disc that links us with American history, minting technology, human error, and the mystery of scarcity that collectors crave. The 1999 P dime originates from the Philadelphia Mint, which struck hundreds of millions of dimes during that year, and normally such a coin would be completely ordinary, with the familiar Roosevelt portrait on the obverse designed by John R. Cynic and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse. But when we step into the realm of numismatics, the ordinary is often transformed into the extraordinary through the presence of rare errors, misstrikes, double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, transitional compositions, and missing or misplaced mint marks, and that is exactly what fuels the legend of the 1999 P dime worth hundreds of millions, because reports and theories suggest that a handful of coins left the mint with unique anomalies so drastic and unrepeatable that collectors would pay fortunes to own them. Imagine a coin struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps even on a cent planchet or a foreign coin blank, creating a size, weight, and metallic composition completely different from the intended dime, instantly making it stand out and become a rare variety. Or imagine a 1999 dime where the mint mark P was misplaced, doubled, inverted, or even missing altogether. A detail that for advanced collectors is like a treasure map leading to a priceless gem, because mint marks are identifiers of where the coin was struck, and when they deviate from the expected norm they elevate the coin into the category of once-in-a-lifetime rarities. Errors like double die obverse, where the date 1999 or the word liberty, or the motto I in God we trust appear doubled, or die clashes where elements of the reverse design are imprinted faintly on the obverse, or even off-metal strikes where the coin was accidentally struck using the wrong denomination's blank, all add layers of fascination and value, because they show the unpredictability of minting technology, the fallibility of human oversight, and the creation of unique varieties that cannot be replicated. And once a coin is unique, or limited to just a handful of specimens, its value can climb to unimaginable levels as collectors and investors compete for ownership. The legend of the 1999 P dime worth $567 million often gets tied with such scenarios, suggesting that there may exist an error dime from that year so rare and so mysterious that it has become priceless, perhaps stored in private collections, perhaps traded secretly among elite numismatists, perhaps only rumored but never fully confirmed. And in the world of coin collecting, that mystery itself drives fascination and value, because part of the thrill is the hunt, the belief that extraordinary coins might still be hidden in circulation, in rolls of dimes at banks, or in jars of change at home, waiting for a sharp-eyed collector to uncover a life-changing discovery. The Philadelphia Mint was producing billions of coins in the 1990s, and when production volume is so high, the chances for mistakes increase, which means that collectors specifically look at years like 1999 for unusual anomalies, and indeed, the late 1990s and early 2000s were years filled with notable mint errors across various denominations, such as off-metal quarters and experimental planchet issues, so it is not unthinkable that a 1999 dime could exist with extraordinary traits, and if one does, its rarity and historical significance would explain why its valuation could be pushed into astronomical figures. To understand how a dime can reach $567 million in reported or rumored value, we need to explore the psychology of numismatics and the economics of rarity, because value in coins is not only about metal content but about story, provenance, condition, and above all uniqueness. And once a coin is unique, or nearly unique, wealthy collectors with vast resources may bid prices far beyond rational investment just to own the piece of history. and this has happened before with coins like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar, which have sold for tens of millions. And each time such record-breaking sales happen, the possibility of even higher valuations becomes more realistic. So if the 1999 P dime with a catastrophic minting error or missing mint mark were ever to appear in a major auction, its bidding war could theoretically reach heights beyond imagination. And that is why this coin is talked about in legendary terms with valuations that defy expectation. Now let us consider some of the most plausible types of errors that could exist on a 1999 P dime, and why each would make the coin astronomically valuable. First, the transitional error, where a coin is struck on a planchet of the wrong metal composition. For instance, if a 1999 dime was accidentally struck on a silver planchet long after silver was discontinued from circulation coinage, that would create an instant rarity. Or if it was struck on a cent planchet, producing a dime design on a copper coin smaller and lighter than normal, again creating a unique specimen. Second, the missing mint mark or misplaced mint mark error, which has historical precedent as with the 1982 No P dime, one of the most famous modern rarities. So if a 1999 dime was struck without its P mint mark or with the mint mark in an unusual location, collectors would clamor for it. Third, double die errors, where the doubling of details like the date 1999 or the lettering would be visible to the naked eye, adding dramatic appeal. Fourth, major off-center strikes where the design is shifted so much that part of the coin is blank, which collectors prize. And fifth, mule errors, where the obverse of the dime was accidentally paired with the reverse of another denomination such as a quarter, which would create one of the most legendary mint errors of all time. Because mule errors are exceedingly rare and have fetched astronomical prices in auctions before. Each of these errors carries its own story, its own path to extreme rarity, and if any of them were confirmed for a 1999 P dime, then the valuation in the hundreds of millions could suddenly appear less absurd and more like a potential reality in a numismatic market that thrives on rarity and prestige. The narrative of the $567 million dime also reminds us that coin values are shaped by more than supply and demand. They are shaped by myth, legend, speculation, and collector psychology. Because in numismatics the line between fact and folklore often blurs, and the excitement of possibility can sustain incredible valuations even without widespread verification. When collectors hear of a dime worth hundreds of millions, they don't dismiss it, they investigate, they search their change, they read auction catalogs, and this hunt itself keeps the legend alive, because the mere chance that a coin so ordinary on the surface could hide such extraordinary value is what makes coin collecting endlessly exciting. Now consider the provenance factor. If a 1999 P dime with a spectacular error was discovered by a famous collector, exhibited in renowned museums, or written about in major numismatic journals, that provenance would multiply its value, because in the world of collectibles, history of ownership is almost as important as the item itself. And each new chapter in the coin's story adds layers of prestige and allure, so when rumors suggest a 1999 dime worth $567 million, what they are really pointing to is the combination of extreme rarity, spectacular error, and legendary provenance, a trio that pushes coin values to record-shattering levels. Another reason such a coin could be so valuable is condition. If the error dime was discovered in pristine mint state, with blazing luster, no signs of wear, and graded by a top service like PCGS or NGC at MS68 or higher, the premium would be exponential, because collectors not only want rarity, they want rarity in the best possible state of preservation. And a flawless error dime would be nearly priceless. Moreover, the year 1999 carries symbolic significance, being the last year of the millennium, which adds another layer of collectible value, because coins tied to historically important dates often attract more attention, and when you pair that with a rare error, you get a perfect storm of desirability. Think about the publicity factor as well. Once a story emerges that a 1999 P dime has been appraised, rumored, or speculated to be worth $567 million, news outlets, collectors' blogs, YouTube channels, and coin forums amplify the story, spreading it to me. We are going to focus on the incredible story of the 2000 P1 dime from the United States, a coin that normally has a face value of just 10 cents but which in certain rare error and mint mistake examples has been estimated at an astronomical worth of around $564 million. And while at first it may seem impossible that such a small and common piece of change could be valued so highly, The truth lies in the history of coin production, the errors that occur at the United States Mint, the rarity of those errors, the market demand from collectors, and the sometimes almost unbelievable amounts of money that certain investors are willing to pay for one-of-a-kind pieces of numismatic history. So let us start by examining the 2000 P dime itself, because this coin is part of the Roosevelt Dime series, which has been minted since 1946 in honor of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was deeply associated with the March of Dimes campaign to fight polio, and by the year 2000 the United States Mint in Philadelphia, represented by the P Mint mark, had already produced billions of Roosevelt dimes in circulation, most of which were struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel layered around a pure copper core. So ordinarily these coins are extremely common and would carry no premium above face value. But the moment errors and minting mistakes enter the story, everything changes, and collectors are always on the hunt for those rare specimens that slipped through quality control and ended up as highly unusual pieces, unlike the billions of regular strikes. Now errors can come in many forms, and for the 2000 P dime we must explore the wide range of possible mistakes that could elevate a coin from a common 10-cent piece into a numismatic treasure. So let's consider broad strikes where the coin is struck without a collar, allowing the metal to expand beyond its normal diameter, off-center strikes where the design is only partially struck, leaving blank space on the coin, double strikes where the coin receives two imprints from the dies leading to overlapping images, and even die caps where a coin sticks to the die and impresses its distorted image onto later coins. All of these error types are highly collectible, but when they occur in modern dimes from the year 2000 with the Philadelphia Mint mark, they become even more intriguing, because by then minting technology was advanced and errors were rarer than in earlier decades, making any such mistake even more valuable. Then we must also consider the possibility of transitional errors, meaning a coin struck on a planchet from a different denomination or composition. And for the 2000 P dime there have been rumors and occasional reports of dimes struck on planchets meant for foreign coins or even quarters and cents. And these kinds of mistakes are extremely rare, often resulting in coins that are much lighter or heavier than a standard dime. And because the error is tied to the mint's handling of blank planchets, it creates a story of rarity and accident that excites collectors. And when such a coin is authenticated by grading services like PCGS or NGC, it can command breathtaking sums at auction. Beyond striking errors, we must also look into mint mark issues, because while the Philadelphia Mint had reintroduced the P Mint mark on dimes in 1980, errors involving missing mint marks, repunched mint marks, or even misplaced mint marks can make certain coins incredibly rare. And although the year 2000 was long after the famous 1982 no P dime error, collectors still search for variations where the mint mark is doubled, faint, or otherwise abnormal, and such coins carry substantial premiums, especially if they are found in uncirculated condition. Another angle of rarity comes from die varieties, like doubled dies where parts of the design such as the date, motto, or lettering show clear doubling, and these kinds of errors can turn a common coin into a major discovery, because doubled die varieties are catalogued and studied by specialists, and some varieties become legendary, commanding hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars depending on rarity and demand. And if a dramatic doubled die existed for the 2000 P dime, it could easily spark a frenzy in the collecting world, driving up value to extraordinary levels. Now let us step back and talk about how such coins could possibly reach a valuation of $564 million, because that is a number far beyond even the record prices paid for the rarest coins like the 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar. But when we think of such valuations, we must realize that it represents not just intrinsic rarity but also the idea of a unique, one-of-a-kind, possibly never to be seen again specimen that captures worldwide attention. And in the numismatic market, certain extraordinary stories have driven values sky high. So when a modern dime is rumored to exist with errors so profound, such as being struck on the wrong planchet with extreme doubling, off-metal composition, mint mark abnormalities, and perhaps even a misaligned die resulting in partial or missing designs, then suddenly the coin is no longer just a 10-cent piece but rather a singular artifact representing a once-in-a-century mistake by the United States Mint. Collectors and investors alike are drawn to such stories because rarity plus demand equals astronomical prices, and the coin collecting world has witnessed time and again how prices can soar when two or more determined collectors battle at auction for a unique item, and in that environment even a dime can be pushed to values far beyond imagination. To further explain, we should explore how era coins are discovered, typically when sharp-eyed collectors or even ordinary people spot something unusual in their pocket change, and with billions of dimes produced in 2000 by the Philadelphia Mint, the odds are that a few mistakes slip through, but finding them requires careful attention to details such as weight tests, magnification to detect doubling, or comparison to known varieties, and when someone discovers an anomaly they often submit it to professional grading companies who not only certify the coin's authenticity but also encapsulate it in protective holders with clear labels describing the error, and that certification is what gives collectors confidence to pay premium prices. Over time, as word spreads about an extraordinary 2000p dime, excitement builds, articles are written, and eventually such a coin might appear at major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, or Sotheby's, and when the bidding starts the price can skyrocket due to competition, ultimately landing at figures like the $564 million valuation that has been reported in numismatic circles as a theoretical maximum for the most extraordinary 2000p dime specimen known or rumored to exist. Now consider also that beyond its rarity and errors, the symbolic appeal of the dime series adds to the mystique, because the Roosevelt dime has been in continuous production for decades, and coins tied to presidential legacies carry historical weight. So a dramatic error from the year 2000, which also symbolically marked the turn of the millennium, makes the coin even more desirable. As collectors love milestones and symbolic dates, and this connection elevates the coin's narrative beyond the technical error alone. Furthermore, wealthy investors and institutions often see rare coins as alternative assets, similar to art, rare stamps, or diamonds, and with the global wealth concentration at record levels, the competition for the finest and rarest tangible objects of history is fiercer than ever, and when such investors see a unique 2000p dime with an incredible backstory, they may be willing to spend unheard of sums simply to own it, store it in a vault, and hold it as a trophy asset that represents their ability to possess what no one else in the world can. The psychology of ownership plays a huge role in numismatic values, because when only one coin exists or perhaps only a handful are known, then suddenly every serious collector wants it, but only one can have it, and that exclusivity drives value skyward, and this is exactly why even a tiny dime can surpass hundreds of millions of dollars in estimated worth when the right conditions of rarity, error, certification, publicity, and collector demand converge. Now, as we expand further, let us analyze hypothetical error combinations that could make a 2000p dime uniquely valuable, such as a coin struck on a 1943 steel cent planchet by mistake, which would create a dime-sized coin with magnetic properties, or a coin struck on a quarter planchet showing partial quarter design features overlapping with the dime design, or even a coin struck with misaligned dies where the obverse shows Roosevelt's profile doubled and shifted while the reverse torch and olive branch are missing or rotated. And if such a coin also lacked the P mint mark or showed it doubled in a bizarre location, then the combination of multiple errors in one coin would be unprecedented, and collectors would treat it as a numismatic holy grail, perhaps justifying a $564 million valuation as it becomes both a modern error and a legendary unique piece. Beyond technical details, the lore and storytelling behind the coin matter as well, because collectors are not only buying metal but also the narrative. And when a coin carries the legend of being the most valuable dime ever discovered, the first coin of the millennium to reach such status, and possibly a minting accident so severe that it has never been replicated, then it transcends its material composition and enters the realm of mythology, and in that realm values are driven as much by imagination and